The one thing that I have to say is I'm a little fucking baffled because, dude, first of all, I thought that you were a Marine. And then the fucking bullshit that we can't use what you do or what you said that you do. You come on here, I'm thinking you're part of HVGC and you're not. You're wearing the fucking hat. No, you're not. I fucking care. But the bottom line is this, is that you came on board here for this fucking podcast.
Yeah.
And then to find out that you probably didn't even fucking grow that. Yeah.
That's fine.
So, the thing is I think the heart comes from Ross on this shit. So the only thing I have to say is kind of like a fuck you and fuck the whole thing, and this podcast isn't gonna fucking take place. That's what I really wanted to say.
Yeah.
So I'm honestly, I'm fucking pissed. But this is supposed to be fucking true to what's happening, and I don't feel like that's it. And I know this guy back there is honest and true to what he's doing, but the rest of this stuff, and I'm telling you, Tommy, I don't want this fucking thing on. You know what I mean? So that's all I got to say. So fuck that. Fuck this, and I'm just going back.
Fucking settle that. You go ahead and sit the fuck
you, bro.
Fuck that.
The fucking TV. That's unfiltered. That's What is cannabis doing for you?
Put some dog tags together, man.
Hey, listen, welcome back to PV Unfiltered, the #1, and I'm going to get this right, cannabis podcast in the nation. So, oh shit, we're starting right off with that. Guys, listen, so we're sitting here, as you have seen, but kind of heard in podcast number, Tommy will tell, we have Andy Myers back from HVGC, and we're going to go into the growing and the cultivation side of where HVGC is at and where they're going. And with us as well, we have Ross Bump Ass. That last name's going to get us all the time. And Alex Rios. So, and then back on the couch back here, we do have Cody Sadler, the co-founder of Platinum Vape. And guess what? Somehow the fucker sneaks in again. There he is. Brian Buckley, the head of HVGC. All right, so let's just go into this, and I'm going to leave this to you. We're going to keep the mic up close, and we're going to talk about how is HVGC doing on the front of cultivation and where we at, where we going, and most important is, how'd you get there? Because I do have the background, a little bit of what we got last time of, you've gone through extensive schooling in cultivation and horticulture and everything else that goes on with that. But we also have kind of a little surprise on the background of how you have gotten to where you are now. And as well, we have some product that Alex has grown. And this is his first, if I'm not mistaken, first real grow.
Yep, first real grow.
Yes.
Under my, own two hands instead of helping out.
There you go. Yeah. So we're going to get with him on exactly that process that he's using. And I can tell you this, I've popped that jar. It's fucking amazing. And he's going to pop it again. Oh, there you go.
Compliments
so
to the chef.
We don't have smell-o-vision here, but I think, you'll get the idea. There you go. So let's start off. Mr. Myers. And that's not Michael Myers. That's Andy Myers.
That's Andy Myers.
Give us the lowdown. Let's take a few minutes and talk about you, as I know that you want to.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
I will speak more this time, I promise. I'm born and raised in Houston. I joined the Marine Corps, got out here in Helmand Valley Growers Company here. I'm the lead cultivator. It's been a fun ride, but when I got out, I didn't really know about cannabis. In Texas, we were getting brick pack stuff, and it was all right, but you were smoking.
Not going to say where that's coming from.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I wasn't there.
Cut it with a bread knife.
Yeah, smoking the sticks and stems. And, I smoked weed. I was a weed smoker before I was a drinker. I wasn't a big drinker in high school. You got the guys that love to booze, pass out and thing. I was more of the guy smoking pot, laughing at everybody as they're puking on themselves. That was more my how I like to hang out and stuff. And once I got in the military, there was no option of drinking or smoking anymore. So therefore, I drank. And nothing against alcohol, but I prefer cannabis, and it wasn't available. So when I got out, a buddy of mine said, "Hey, my dad served. He was an officer. I really want to thank you. and he gave me about a half ounce of 3 different cultivars, three different flavors of weed. So I didn't really know what it was or the difference between what I was smoking in Texas and out here, but it was immediately obvious that I was smoking science weed and not dirt, sticks, and stems.
Yeah, the Mexican.
Yeah.
The brick weed.
The shit that was coming from Mexico into Texas.
Oh, yeah, I'm in Houston, so that was the first stop.
Oh,
so,
I know. We got to remember we're in California. We're in fucking San Diego, so
it was
there
interesting.
were tires, people rolling across the border with tires made out of marijuana.
I've smoked weed that smelled like a tire before. It's just what we got.
I've had some diesel weed too.
That's true.
And I'm not talking about sour diesel. I'm talking about literally fucking diesel.
Yep. And so he gives me the weed, and I go to my house, and I have this little pipe. The whole starter thing, again, that you get when you go to a dispensary and they give you a little pipe.
Yeah, first-time patient.
Yeah. So I smoke it, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm a little paranoid. I'm living with 2 other Marines. They're still active duty, and I'm like trying to sneak around and smoke pot like I'm back at my parents' house and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? So I go the next day, I go, Mike, hey, man, I got weed and I'm smoking. Is that all right? And he's like, yeah, like you don't have to tiptoe around here, dude. I'm out like smoking it back at night and shit.
I just killed 472 people last month. Yeah. And you're worried about smoking weed in front of me? You know what I mean?
Essentially, that's what the conversation
I'm just
was.
exaggerating on the 472. It was only 72.
Yeah.
Confirmed. But, I wasn't there either. But so then I started seeing the medical benefits of it. So a lot of the stuff I was dealing with, the sleep, the pain, I was like, wow. Once I got past the little anxiety rush of the higher THC cannabis, I was like, holy shit, this actually works. Like, let's start holding controls. I'm a why guy. Why? So I had to know. So I started trying more. And, as anybody knows with cannabis now, there's not a lot of science to back it yet. There will be. It's getting there. That's the point of this all. But so it was a trial and error. And right now I still feel it's the same way. It's a trial and error. Your endocannabinoid system is independent to you, not across the board. There's no cookie cutter answer to this. So I found what worked for me. And then I wanted to know more, but my buddy's like, hey, did you like that? I'm like, I want more. Where do I get it? And he's like, well, how about I make a deal with you? I'm going to introduce you to the people who grew it, but they need help with a security plan, not like fucking AKs and gun turrets and fucking fighting off everything. It's just basic stuff to keep people from wandering through, where the outdoor plot was, the greenhouse was, and the indoor facility, and not just like taking a 5-gallon bucket and breaking branches and dipping out. Let's keep that to a minimum without having to have guard dogs and crazy shit like that. So we went out there. I did my job. That's where I met Ross. And Ross.
So Ross is now in the picture.
Yeah, Ross was
civilian.
Yep.
And even though he looks like he may have been doing some shit, he's been over here doing some shit. And now coming in and helping further this guy's career and yours as well. And so now we have Ross.
Yeah. So Ross is there and
Bump ass.
Mr. Bump ass here was there.
Yeah.
And as I was done, I went up to him and I said, Mr. Bump ass, I'm finished with the job. And what we kind of vibe. We hit it off. Like he and I hit it off well. And there was another business partner, but he and I hit it off real well. And it wasn't a bad thing. We just didn't click. And so I got to talking to Ross. I'm like, hey, how about I got a deal? How about you don't pay me and you just teach me everything and I help you? And he's like, really? Done. And there it started. That was my gateway. That's when I started putting the first plant in the ground, and that's where the gateway drug started. That's where I always had a passion. My dad grew plants. My mom made the hot sauce out of the garden. It was awesome. I always ate fresh produce, and I wasn't much of a gardener like my dad, but I had the interest in it, and I had interest in the science of it, the composting, the microbiology, the soil science, and everything. So I teamed up with Ross, and Ross was an organic grower, but I, again, was the why guy. So after I wanted to know why more, I got into sustainable agriculture, and that's when you do the plant sciences, you do the soil sciences, you do all that route, the IPM and everything. And that's,
no, a lot of people don't do that. I hate to break it to you. Well, a lot of people just put fucking plants in the ground and just grow. They don't. But yeah, they don't go. They don't go through this path that you have. And trust me, what you've done is great. But don't think that everybody does that, because they don't.
There's like, what's IPM?
Some of us just went on YouTube.
YouTube University.
So, and like I said, I'm a why guy. So I had to know why, or I'll keep fidgeting things in curiosity. I'll just mess it up. So I have to know why. I'll leave it alone. And Ross introduced me to organics, and a lot of it, he said, just do this. And again, so I want to know why. So I realized when I was learning plant science, a lot of these plant scientists, and I'm not knocking them, but some of them don't grow produce. They stay in the laboratory. They stay where they're at. They stay behind a microscope. So I knew some plant scientists that couldn't grow a tomato, but I knew tomato growers that couldn't tell you what a cell was. You know what I mean? What a nucleus was or anything like that. So what I saw with Ross was Ross had this Rolodex of knowledge, just from years and years of cultivation in California, I had the want and will to know, and I wanted to know more of the academia side. So I took that, and we met in the middle. So we took a bit of plant science and answered a lot of this has been working because observation said so, but now we know why at the cellular level, why it's working.
So it's beneficial to both of you.
Oh, hell
Yes.
yeah.
Because he was picking up on the side that you weren't, as it would be if it was us partnering together. So now there's a beneficial relationship where you're learning the other side of what you're growing, and he's learning the method and kind of why it's done like that.
All the protocols and everything going kind of down the line.
Right. So not to skip from you, but I want to hear like go into some of your background and once again, what is cannabis doing for you? That's what this is about. And it always is, because look at us all sitting at the table. Yes, you may have grown up with your parents smoking weed and all this stuff, but that's what it was. But we did not come from cannabis. You know what I mean? And so now I want to, just a quick understanding of where'd you come from, Ross? I mean, you didn't fucking grow up, organically growing cannabis.
No.
You were working somewhere.
Well, growing weed is the only job I've ever had. So
Fuck. Okay.
All right. There's that.
Wow. I just got fucked on that one.
Oh man.
Right. All right. So let's retract that last 45 seconds. Because,
He's the first generation.
Yeah. Guys, we have one live. All right. The podcast has changed. All right. You're out. Ross.
So, growing cannabis is the only thing I've ever done as far as a job. I was born and raised in California and
Northern Cal?
Southern California.
Fuck. Get me on every level right now. I mean, fuck. I pictured you like Humboldt with, parents with dreadlocks and
Up on the hill.
I'm the first generation with a big beard.
Up on the hill. He's like, no, man, I grew up in fucking Beverly Hills and grew weed.
Yeah. So in high school,
is your family cartel, or like what's happening here? Am I missing something? Because
no cartel.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Wait a second, guys. He turned really red when I said that.
Oh man, I think I need to edit that part.
His real name isn't Bump Ass. It's Escobar.
Roberto.
Roberto.
So I back in high school, I was real good friends with a guy whose older brothers were
Pablo.
And I got to see the progression. I started out as a trimmer, and I got to see how everything was working.
But really quick, how does that come into play? Like, was your family involved in
No, I just wanted to
cannabis?
make
Was
money.
anybody? But nobody in your family was involved in cannabis. I mean,
no.
were they smoking?
No, I'm the total black sheep, first guy to start smoking and growing and do all that stuff.
Dude, I mean,
Damn, hell of a leap.
you can't tell me you've never had another job.
Platinum Vape.
Oh, fuck. Dude, you're killing. You got to leave. You just ruined my whole podcast theme. Seriously,
Oh, man.
So give me just like what was your upbringing? Were you like piss ass broke and
no,
had to support everybody?
Well, I mean, I was. My parents, middle class. Everything was fine.
God, you're just killing me now.
For me, I wanted to make money, so I started trimming with some friends.
Why didn't you cut your yard or something, or go to work at Burger King?
He
or
was
something?
cutting plants. He was trimming. He was
$20 a
trimming.
month or $200 a day. It's an easy choice when you're in high school.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, that's been the route for some people, but
Yeah,
I just never figured you for that.
It all started out trimming, and I realized from
So when you went to trim, so dude, we're skipping something that's really interesting to me, and I hope it is for everybody else. But you don't grow up in a middle class family and wake up in the morning and go, "Yeah, I'm going to go find someone to trim weed." Like it doesn't happen like that. Well, give me how did that happen?
No, so I mean, I smoked in high school with friends on the weekends and stuff, but it was coming from my brother's friend or my friend's brother. And that's how it all started. I was interested. Oh, there's something when I'm not supposed to have. I can make money while I'm doing it, and I can not tell my parents. It's a win-win-win all the way around.
and put some change in my pocket. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's no change.
yeah.
No, the change
Especially-
goes in the floorboard of the fucking Lambo.
The roll goes under the and the drywall under the mattress. That's where the paychecks went.
So now you start trimming for a friend.
Yeah, and I did that for about 4 months, and I realized that I'm way smarter than these guys. And I don't mean that in...
Trust me, I know exactly where you're going, so you don't even have to explain.
So it's, I've got the situational awareness. I'm
Right.
real perceptive to things going on around me. And I thought, I can do this. There's no way I can't. So my mom had lost her job, and I convinced her. I said, hey, we can keep our house.
Good. I
if we
knew
start
there was
growing.
something.
There it is.
All right, so here
There
we
it
are.
is.
There
You
was
gotta
definitely
dig
a
deep.
vehicle.
You gotta dig deep.
Yeah, we're getting in there.
Yes.
Do you want to lay down here? We can
scratches
talk. You know, actually, you want
let's
to
bring
get
up
back
the
on
couch.
the couch? We'll bring the couch up. All right, so your mom lost her job.
Yeah, and she was worried about losing the house. And
Absolutely.
she didn't tell me that she lost her job until about a month after she lost it. She started stressing out a lot more, and suddenly I had a job, but I was working construction. That was.
No, everybody in cannabis started. They were a construction company.
Yeah, that's it.
Contract.
Or
Or
working.
electrician
I'm a contractor.
or something.
Or electrician, yeah.
Yeah, HVAC
Something.
guy.
Yeah. One day, one night, I come home 2:00 in the morning from my construction job. And
Wait. I got to stop for 1 second here because this is where, God, I look at this guy back here sometimes.
So majestic.
Wait a second. Who do you work for right now?
You.
Being
He's on temp with you right now.
Yeah. I'm on set.
Platinum Vape,
Oh yeah.
not HVGC.
No, I'm in line.
Get him a fucking PV sweatshirt. I'm honestly like every fucking thing I see around here is HVGC.
Taking over.
Something.
We got a PV hat on the table.
Yeah, PV hat.
I mean, even Cody's
Yeah, I
got
saw
a fucking.
Cody's like,
Wait,
Cody's got it on.
even Matt's got HVGC on. What are you wearing,
Tommy,
Tommy?
turn around.
Fuck. What is happening? You, Cody? You've gone to the dark side too?
Yeah.
You know, I noticed that. I
man.
walked by
Strength
your
by
office.
numbers.
I was-
Strength by the numbers.
God.
We show up and we
Tommy.
work.
Hey, it's a fact.
Damn.
We show up and we work. That's what we do. We just work.
I guess we
I
have to
thought
do
there
some
was a
dress
you and me,
downs
too.
right before we start.
I thought there was a me and you.
Would you let him finish the damn story?
This is part of the podcast.
I still got it. All right.
Okay. All right. So
So, my mom tells me she's losing her job about a month later. And I come home one night about 2 a.m. from my construction job.
Right.
And I would carry around a Crown Royal bag with my weed in it. That was...
nobody ever knew that before.
Yeah.
I mean,
What's in there?
nobody used to carry their fucking bongs around in a Crown Royal
Yeah.
bag.
I wasn't 21. I thought it was cool. I'm not supposed to have this either.
Oh no, it was
So,
cool. It was cool. It's just that every cop knew that if they saw a Crown Royal bag anywhere within sight, there was weed.
Yeah.
Or money.
It wasn't alcohol.
Yeah. So I get home and I go straight to the kitchen because that's what you do when you finish working construction at 2 a.m. So I set my Crown Royal bag on the counter and I put my hat down over it because I'm going to remember it before I go to bed.
Right.
So the next morning I wake up to
Ooh.
my door getting kicked open and this bag getting thrown at me. And it all comes crashing down right then and there. I'm like, oh, man.
The best, worst thing that could ever happen.
Oh, best, worst thing.
Yep.
So now I have to talk to my mom about my construction job, and then that leads into her telling me about losing her job and we might lose the house. And I'm just like, okay, I've got an idea. So I took money that I had from my construction job, and then I convinced her to put in her last $15,000. And she shouldn't have done that because that
about
would have
trust.
kept us in the house. Oh, big time. So I partnered up with my friend's brother, and I got him to come in and build out the garage. We had a 3-car garage, nice house in Corona Hills, and I put 15 lights in.
Okay, do I need to edit that part?
No. But what we do need to have, as we always do, is any visuals that you have, make sure that they get to Tommy. You know, if you have pictures of your grow and you have pictures of, all that, it's really cool for this. So anyways, so now you're in your 6,500 square foot house in Corona Hills.
Yeah.
In your 3-car garage.
Yeah, and we got it all built out, and I put 15,000 watt lights on the 2-car side, and then I had a mother room built out on the single-car side.
So your mom could no longer run her hair dryers and shit.
No, she couldn't. Luckily, we had a pool, so that helped with the amperage on the panel. So we
Drain the pool.
Shouldn't
have to run the filters.
Oh yeah.
and we got started, and it was a really stressful few months. It took about 4 months
Yeah.
to get everything built out.
But your
Get
mom
all the equipment.
became on board, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, I mean, she She really now. How great is that?
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but there's a lot of similarities there when you talk about myself and Cody in that way. Not with the reluctance, but then with a little bit, in the fact that we both trusted each other on what we were going to do, and that's and you did that with your mom.
Yeah.
And obviously not coming from a background, and your mom not coming from that, having that history. I mean, to go from one night where you literally fucking, get broke out on what's going on, or in the morning, and then like to transition and make that, I got a plan. How old were you then?
I was 18.
So, here you go. You're 18 years old, and now you come up with a plan to save the household off the backs of your AKA construction job, trimming weed, to now go, let's grow weed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a show called Weeds.
Yeah.
And this is like,
He's not JV no more. He went up.
yeah, no, I mean, and this is what's really great about having this podcast is to get to talk to people and understand these little stories and how great they turn out, as they're going along, and we're in that process. So yeah, so you've now gotten with your mom on board to grow, gonna lose the house.
Yeah.
And your first 3 months are just like anybody's first 3 months in growing cannabis, a fucking nightmare.
It was crazy. It was really crazy. And it was a lot more stressful because I was having to deal with my mom's stress as well.
Yeah.
And every day, her not knowing if this is going to show a return. Are we going to be able to stay here? Did she just blow the rest of her money? Do we have to move out tomorrow? There were so many thoughts running through both of our minds. And
it's tougher on women too, because they're so prone to be the caregiver and to have stuff, forward looking and like having these things lined out. And now everything's up in the air. You spent the last money that you have, and your kids are, it's like there's just a lot of things. And so I imagine she was just like out of her head.
Oh yeah,
100%. Mama Bear takes care
and then
of
to top it all off, now you've got to grow in your garage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was crazy. She was sweating it every day. She would come home. She was nervous. I can hear that the fans, the AC's on the side of the house. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah. So, we buckle down, keep working. And my whole goal is to make sure that we can get enough to save the house. So fast forward, we get to our first harvest, and I got 38.5 pounds off that 15 lights my first time. And, prices were much better back then.
Right.
So from that, I pulled down $140K on the first harvest. So I more than
guys, that's back. Just so you know, that's unheard of.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I don't care what anybody says. I mean, this is one of those things. Cody and I didn't even have anything close to that. But it really is. Anybody that knows, it's kind of unheard of, especially to get that much per light. And then as well, in a great market at that time, to be able to knock down that on the first one, it usually there's 2 strikes before you hit the home run.
Yeah.
And
we made sure to stay under 100 plants because that was where the mandatory 40-year minimum came in. So I had 99 plants, was using the ebb and flow bucket system, and that each box had 6 buckets. And it was a $250 expansion pack. Oh, it was ridiculous. And then you get in the brains for the whole system.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was a trip. So that really turned things around. And we were able to stay in our house. And, that room turned into another house. And that turned into another. And before I knew it, I had 7 different properties that we were growing on. Indoor, outdoor, greenhouse.
And your mom's still along on board and everybody's doing their thing?
Well, by that time, she had moved out. So I was staying in the house by myself.
Well, now she moved from Corona. She's up, Beverly Hills.
She got a nice spot located.
That $15,000 investment, puts a Bentley in the driveway. I'm just kidding. That's not the fucking case. But no, how cool is that? That now you got 7 properties going. You're doing this stuff. I mean, of course, still staying under 99 plants.
Yeah.
Under 100.
And then I just reinvested in the family, put my little brother through college, sent him to India for a missions trip because he's real religious, bought my mom a car. Things just really changed. And then I branched out.
It fucking gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. George, I wouldn't bring, he's my guy for a reason.
This guy's going to step up and start taking some credit.
Oh, hell no, not that.
He works for Platinum Vape.
Ross made me the grower I am, but that's You know what I mean?
No, I mean
That's
this is what happens is you walk in the door this morning not knowing what the hell's going to go on.
Yeah.
And you can literally find some of the most amazing stories just shooting the shit as we are.
Yep.
And then just the fact of, I always like to look at it and go, wow, like how could things have been without cannabis? You know what I mean? Like where would your mom be? Where would your family be? Like
houseless.
No, I mean, it's even worse than houseless. I mean, it really is because you take those levels of stress and it goes into medical issues. Like there's a lot of things that go on, and then you turn around and even in the the unlicensed market and whatever's going on. I mean, it's like it's cannabis, but look at what it's done, and we're just getting started on this part of the story.
Scratching the surface.
Literally.
So now you've put your brother through school, you've put him on missions, and you know your mom's now moved into a house. You bought her a car.
Yeah. So then I moved out into the mountains and really started to up production and had a property out there. Started in Awanga, then I moved over to Anza and did a lot of business up there. And then in 2015 is when Andy and I combined forces after we got introduced through a mutual friend. And, you know, we got into our experiences, our trials together.
Right.
Yep. And
we tried LEDs before LEDs were what they were, and we struck out. We just didn't have it dialed in yet, and the technology wasn't there. But
yeah, we're going to get into that because
we learned
that's
so
actually
much.
blowing my mind that's LEDs, but we'll get down to that side of it.
Yeah.
So so now you fast forward, you're doing what you've done with Andy. Mom's still doing good.
oh yeah, mom's
You know,
great.
everybody's still doing good, and
Yep. Family's all good. And, you know, now we've transitioned into the legal market.
right.
And what a ride. What
Yeah.
a ride. It's a different type of ride, but it's a ride.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in that boat, you know. I mean, we've all came from, you know, Prop 215 and all the other shit that goes on, you know, in other states as well. But, you know, now we enter into the legal side of it, and it's a different ride. But I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. I mean, I look at it as, you know, kind of like that was boot camp for us, for Cody and I, and you know, and now, not that it's any, you know, more of a cush job, because it's actually the opposite. It's just nice to kind of sleep better at night. You know what I mean? And everybody here knows what that's like, you know, just in random,
peeking out your
especially
blinds.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the peeking out the blinds, and then just in random, you know, I mean, like you take for granted just a knock on the door is like, you know, it can be gut wrenching. And so, you know, I mean, we've been through a lot, but what a fucking amazing story, you know. I mean, and I love the fact that it's still growing. Like the story is still going on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So the fact is that you did things right, and not that other people didn't, but a lot of people ended up in jail, even though they were doing things right at that time. It's just, I think a lot of it too was luck of the draw in some ways, and then a lot of carelessness in other people.
Yeah. Also willingness to just go for it.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
take that
that's the
chance.
biggest part
You
of
know,
it.
where would
It
mankind
is.
be if we didn't just go for it once in a while?
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, like you had your 12 light going and you had such a phenomenal pool, which is like your environment was set. You
could have stayed right there.
Were set. Everything else was set. And that's because like your drive to make sure you succeed. Like,
Oh
that's
yeah.
it.
There's one room is nice, two rooms is nice, but buildings are better, companies are better,
Right.
longevity is better.
And that's what I think a lot of people come in or have been in this into the, you know, the short game of cannabis, if you want to call it that. It's the same thing in drugs and anything else. You know, it's like, you know, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do this and do as much as I can, and I'm out, you know. And then most people, they don't get out. They either get in jail or they get right. And, you know, obviously you went that direction, and we did the same thing, you know. But the dedication to getting step to step to where you are now, and, you know, that's a huge process. And only people that have been in this industry know, the people coming into the industry now, they'll never experience this level. They'll never understand that process. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot to be said when you sit at the table with somebody that, you know, was in this, you know, 8, 10, 15 years ago. There's a lot to be said on, I mean, I know you guys, HVGC has, you know, their tattoos and, you know, the things that have brought them. I'm not joking. Like, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
And that's what, when they're in the circle together, there's that understanding that they have of what has gone on. And the same thing when you talk about people in cannabis that have brought this forward to where we are today. And now look at what's happened in the last 2 years with, you know, how legalization is and being licensed. And there's so many people that came from another industry and crossed over here, bringing their knowledge, their tools, you know, everything that they have, which is great. That's how this grows. But we still have our own little clique. And I mean, I say little, but I mean, anybody that has gone through those trials to get to this point, you know, having a garage, and most people will never know what it's like to have a grow in your garage and not have family know about it. And, you know, when a cop just happens to come down your street, you know, normally he could be doing that for 5 years at the same time, every single day for 5 years. As soon as you put a grow up, he's there to arrest you, and he just drives by just like normal. So, I mean, there is a lot to be said about that part of it. And, you know, and once again, I mean, unfortunately, we saw people sitting in jail for things that, you know, that they should never be in jail for. But
that's true. They need, all that stuff needs to be. I got thrown in jail for 0.03 grams of marijuana.
Oof. There you go.
I went to jail.
Had nothing to do with the drunk driving.
Had nothing to do with all the bottles cracked on the floor.
Had nothing to do with being parked on the sidewalk.
Or the fact that I had a bench warrant already, so I was getting arrested as it was. So.
No tags, no registration.
Fuck that guy for the 0.03 grams, damn it.
What do you mean I need insurance? For what?
I'm safe.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second. This isn't my car.
You obviously didn't see me hand an arm
key,
signal there.
A screwdriver.
A screwdriver?
Duh.
You gotta get into everything with this.
Master key.
The old bump locks on the Chevy.
So I mean, once again, you know, hats off, because it's always great to have that part of what we're doing exposed, and really it's kind of cool because the feedback that we are getting, you know, on the podcast stuff and when we're talking to friends is like, it's really interesting, you know, and that's a great way to start this. It's really interesting to hear the background of people and to hear the stories of people, because these stories are normally only told in the groups of people that have the same stories. Not that we're tired of listening to it, because we're not, but there's an audience that wants to hear how Ross got into this, and to hear, you know, there's movies made out of shit like this. So, and that's the thing, is that, like, now you're actually able to sit and talk about this stuff and hear the background stories. And there's still a little bit of hesitance on some people to talk about it. And that makes it a little cooler, you know, when you talk about your construction job. You know what I mean? People out there are like, well, a construction job. Why he keeps talking about fucking growing weed, and he was in construction and it's weed.
He
it's like,
stinks like a
skunk. Now guess
geez.
what? Now they're figuring it out. Like, oh, okay. I mean, I have a buddy I was just on the phone with in Michigan, and that was his life. He literally, and Cody knows Joe, he literally had in his grow, he had it set up. He had a saw at his grow, and he had wood, and he would saw a bunch of wood when he opened up a door or whatever it was. And when he left his grow, he would take sawdust and throw it all over his clothes. And then he has toolbox.
Well done.
This is how he did it. And he had his toolbox, which was full of weed. And when he went out to do his drops, you know, he'd come out and he'd, you know, dust off all the thing, you know, and he had it set up. And at one point he had a sander set up where it was automatically just going with a piece of wood on it. So that he'd always have the smell of burning wood and, you know, sawdust.
Fighting terpenes with terpenes, man. Hey, that pine smell off the wood.
So, I mean, once again, I can't wait to have him out, you know, from Michigan, to have his story on here. And we talk about it, but there's just a lot of crazy stories. And now we're going to move on to Alex.
Yeah.
And how did you get into this group?
So I pretty much, I was in the military, retired out, medical retirement, Navy. There we go. And with that, I met Andy and Brian through what? Oh, shaking heads. Shaking heads.
Like this guy, he's got something for the Navy.
Who? Brian?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't punch down.
You know what I mean?
Everybody needs a ride somewhere. It's okay. Yeah. But with that, I got introduced through a mutual friend, Cody Alford, who through Instagram and through calls and texts, it's always been fascinating to me, the cannabis industry. And through the transition of retiring and still staying in Southern California, for me, it kind of pulled me.
So let's go back real quick. You were in the Navy.
Yes. So I was in the Navy.
And what did you do in the Navy?
So
I know
I worked for majority of my time Naval Special Warfare, and
Okay.
through that, so SEAL teams.
Gotcha.
Not a SEAL, just an enabler.
Gotcha.
Worked on operational kind of centers of gravity and intelligence as well.
Gotcha.
And through that,
Intelligence was the main side of it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I moved from operations and just kind of went into the intelligence kind of pipeline.
Is that a natural flow for somebody, or do they get picked for, like, is it something that you have to kind of test into, or like they go, hey,
So I needed
this
to
guy's
screen,
more.
I needed a screen, like an assessment screening, to see if I have the right attributes to go to that unit or that command that I was at. So with that, they're taking personal life stuff about me. They're taking how do I do in the military, how are my PT scores, everything about the aspect of who Alex is,
Right.
and see if I am a good fit for that community.
Gotcha.
And then from there, that community, okay, now are you a good fit for this job?
Right.
And then with that,
So there's some training, training comes along there, but you have to fit, just like you
have to be a
said.
right fit. And I mean, I
And
think
it's
that
not
goes with
an
the-
easy fit.
No, it's not.
And the
Right.
school's not easy.
So
either.
I mean, I want to be clear that what you were doing in the military and in the Navy as an enabler in the SEALs side of it isn't, not to go into it, but it's not just your normal, like, hey, I'm going to go over and fucking blow up rafts for these guys.
No,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So he's got a really cool background.
He hit it with
Yeah.
the
He's got a really cool
Yeah.
background, and trust me, it wasn't blowing up rafts.
Blowing up the zones.
Hey,
Yeah.
the foot pump sucks. Just to let you know, the foot pump sucks.
Yeah, well, okay.
so it was a little bit different
So
than
let's
that.
not downplay the fact that you had a very important job in
Yeah.
the Navy.
Just
Yeah.
kind of help. I classify it as like helping out, but everybody needs a little bit of love. So whether it was working with Mark Sock dudes, working with Green Berets,
Right.
or working with Ranger Regiment, who I particularly, they have a soft spot in my heart just based off of certain deployments that I had in my past, working very closely with them, being able to, I guess, intel or operations for hire. Doesn't matter who it is that needs the love, go ahead and help them out and then get the job done.
Right. So once again, I mean, this is great because here we're sitting here with our U.S. military, and we're talking cannabis.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, 10 years ago, fuck, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
And I was thinking about it earlier. It was almost like a hourglass effect, right? Like everybody's, if you look at an hourglass to the top sand, everybody's coming through different walks of life. They're going through that cannabis center.
Yep.
And then it's just, all right, through the industry. You're
What a
going
great analogy.
Yeah.
And the truth is that cannabis found our vets.
Oh, yeah.
But now the vets are finding the cannabis, and so that's one of the great things about HVGC, which, I mean, Brian is here, and the unfortunate thing is that we don't have a mic and whatnot extra. So, but they are here, and there's a lot of credit that goes there because what they are doing is so big that nobody really realizes it, and I don't even think Brian realizes it even as much as he does. What he's doing and what you guys are doing in this cannabis industry in the space by telling everybody, hey, it's okay. You know what I mean? I understand if you're active and you can't be involved, but the big thing about HVGC is that when you're getting to the point where you're coming out of the military, there's not a whole lot of help in a lot of ways. And this is the beginning of a huge thing that's going to happen where with everybody's support and with everybody helping in this process, because we owe it. I mean, I don't care who you are, for us to be sitting here having this fucking podcast and to sleep well at night, we owe a huge chunk back to not just you guys, but to all the veterans. It doesn't matter. Even if Brian wants to spoof on on Army and Navy, it doesn't matter because he's there to help everybody. That's the bigger part of this. This isn't just about the Marines.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we joke around about it, but the reality is that HVGC is about military. It's about the vets. It's about helping people make that transition.
100%.
And that's the first. And look, this is in cannabis. You know what I mean? And it's not just a money thing. No. It's the fact that what is being done with the plant and on that side of it, and the studies that they have going on right now with Niametic, and we've gone through this in a podcast, and so we know that side of it.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that none of us in this room really understand what's about to happen, not just because of some cartridge sales that HVGC is doing. It's because of what's happening in the background and the drive that these guys have to make this work. There's no fail.
Right.
That's a big part of this. There's no fail, because this is, as we know, this is tough. But reality is that they are helping people, not just onesie twosies. We're going to be doing tens of thousands. You know, I mean, I don't know the numbers of how many people retire or how many people come out.
Tons.
You know, I don't know those numbers, but I know that with what's being done on HVGC alone and the reach that is having, and it's going to continue to grow, is absolutely amazing, because they're able to take a person that comes out totally confused. You know, I mean, there's a lot of aspects of what's going on, and be able to go, look, come over here, let's sit down, and we're going to carve this path. When you're out in 6 months, this is the direction. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, that's pretty much what happened with me. I just retired in September. And with that, I hit up Brian, I think on Instagram. And then we started talking through email a little bit about myself and what are my goals, near term and far term. And with that, you guys brought me in the office, and we were able to collaborate and see where we're at. And for me, it was more of the fear and uncertainty. I got in the military when I was 17. So I don't know anything adult-wise aside from the military.
Right.
And coming out and be able to put the same drive, passion, just myself in something else and not accept a failure as an option. To me, it was cultivating.
And how great is it? He comes into something that has the biggest failure rate outside of opening a restaurant.
Yeah.
Challenging.
You know what I mean?
Or a bar.
You wouldn't think so. But
and then with that, I mean, since it was so near term for me, being able to talk with Andy, and like, I don't even consume cannabis, but I love growing it or helping out my lady. Like
there you go. There's another one. We've got a great parallel there as always. But once again, what's happening now, watch what happens with this in the next 3 to 5 years. And as we go along, because the reach is getting so much bigger and the acceptance is getting, it's there now, where you can see it starting before you're leaving the military. You can see that, the availability to help, rather than like with your mom, where she's about to lose her house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what's happening when vets come out. I mean, they're fucking underneath the bridges trying to survive. 100%. You know what I mean? And everybody goes past them, and it's like, okay, there's 100 of you. You know what I mean? What am I supposed to do? Well, think about that, because HVGC comes on board. They don't care. It starts with one.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's where it's at. And now I don't know who comes from HVGC or PV anything anymore.
Strength in numbers.
Like, I look around. Yeah, it is. And and it's like, now we have all this intel shit going on. It's like, I just don't know. I think we're in a hostile takeover, but it's not hostile.
He's being forced to say that.
I'm doing this podcast under duress.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
wink with your left eye.
And this is what's exciting for myself, and even Cody back on the couch right now can say the same thing. Is like, this is really exciting for us to watch this and to have it grow, and for us to be a part of it is, I mean, it's an honor, and it's crazy when you hear these stories, and then to know that you just came out and like this was your first turn on this, and I mean, once again, it's just it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So you come out, and now you're here.
Yep.
And now we're going to get into the kind of the better part of this, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, that's pretty much it.
We're going to talk about that flower there.
Oh yeah. So that's Mendo breath.
So we've got some Mendo breath.
I smelled it plenty of times. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
You guys can smell it.
So this is your first. This is your first real grow, if you want to call it that. I don't know how else to say it, but so you're talking about something that, and we're going to send this out to have it tested.
I appreciate that.
But you're talking about something that, when I first saw it and looked at it and touched it and smelled it, I would have never guessed that was grown under LED.
Yeah, I mean,
and so let's just talk a little bit about what that that process was, because this is a combined effort.
Yeah.
And the weird way is that, Ross is kind of the
Center of gravity.
Yeah. He's the nucleus of what's happening here. Yeah. And the fact is that Ross started off with a great grow. And I want to hear Ross's words on what he thinks of this. And you don't have to hold back. I mean, if it's mediocre, it's mediocre.
Yeah, I want to shoot me straight.
If it's not very well trimmed, which I could see it could be trimmed a little bit better.
Did you smell that?
I did.
There's nothing mediocre about
it. That's what I'm saying. But that's why I wanted to. People wanted to hear it from you, Ross.
It's the shiny girl in the room.
When you have the last name Bumpin' Ass, you can't.
The man claps cheeks.
Yeah, you're like
speaks for something.
Exactly. You're the last word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got everything that I'm looking for. And
does it hit all your check marks?
It does. I'm going to set it on fire and see how.
Breathe deeply.
See what happens.
Oh, you mean when you get back to your construction job?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not while he's working on the line at PV, by the way.
Of course not.
Right.
But with that, I was able to also have another mentor and a friend. He goes by Brian. With that, who's able to help me. He's a LED kind of guy. I grow this with salts and cocoa. So with that, it's a little bit different from the background and experience that it's both Andy and Ross. And it's just interesting to see, okay, where can we make that blend in between the two worlds? Obviously, I mean, we'll call it mediocre, maybe a little bit plus. With that, I just see certain things.
Well, no, Ross said it's not mediocre.
I just see.
He actually kind of looked at me with that.
Take the compliment.
He looked at me with that eye. He's like, "Did you smell this?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." I
know where there's room for improvement, and with that, being able to collaborate from there, I want to take it to the next level and keep pushing that glass ceiling and move it out of the way.
You're always going to be your biggest critic, though.
No, 100%.
I mean, we'll pull down 3 pounds of light and exceed 30% THC and 36% total cannabinoids, and we're looking at each other like, dude, we could have done better.
Yeah.
Like, if only we pushed it a little harder week 6.
And you know what's great about that is that nobody was sitting at this table going, bro, this is the best shit, man. You should smell this. Oh, taste this. This is this. This is this. No, it was like, yeah, check this out.
Yeah.
And then it was like, yeah, it's good. It's this, it's that.
Or even when Andy.
And then you have I got room for improvement. Like I could have done this, you know what I mean? I could tell you how many times we've had people walk in when we had stores, walk in the store and go, dude, you're about to see the best shit you've ever seen. Puts everything to shame on your shelf. And we go, well, you don't even open the bag. It's just not worth it because the letdown's going to happen in about 30 seconds. and you're going to find out that.
Now.
Yeah. Click.
Yeah.
And you're going to find out right now just what a shitty farmer you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the truth is 90% of the people that walk through the door and think they have the best shit in the world, they don't.
No.
And I have this dialed in. No. So.
And it's always learning too. Like we were just talking about this 30 minutes ago. It's always learning.
Forever a student.
Forever.
You are forever a student.
It is. And it doesn't matter what it is. You're always going to be learning something new. And so that's great when you hear somebody say, you know what, hey, this is my first one. I did it like this and this. And I mean, I've got room for improvement. And, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it really is. And this guy's never said, oh, I got the best shit or, and fuck, what do you got, a master's or what are you doing?
No. I'm still in school. I'm after associates right now. Between working here and the COVID thing, my classes were hands-on classes and now I'm online. So if it continues this way, I'm going to have to wait until I can go back and,
if it makes you feel any better, you can like go over on the wall here and spend some time like going through that and make it greener or something.
Bring the microscope.
But,
one thing that really caught my eye with Alex was the attention to detail and the law.
Oh shit, he blew me off like right now.
Yeah, he was like,
you see that? He's
he
like,
just kind of side Heisman. Like, yeah, we'll go this way.
But for real, I would never joke. But anyways, what really got me, and I can attest to it not being like that. When I asked him he had some questions at one point in time. I'm like, well, go ahead. I have some questions for you because I need to know a baseline. And he had that and more. And for someone who is a first time grower, when I met Ross, it was the same way. He didn't tell me to keep a book. I was keeping a patrol logbook on my own just because, and that's something that when he saw that attention to detail, he's like, well, these military guys, they're already locked on. I don't have to train them. I just have to show them.
Well, let's not give all the credit to the military guys because it's you as a person too. You know what I mean?
100%.
But where'd you learn that from?
A lot of these dudes came in not capable of that, but they left capable of being that person now.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of getting at with the attention to detail. But you also get guys that get out and that are just total dirtbags too. They were dirtbags when they came in. They're
Walks
dirtbags
of
when they
life.
got it. So it goes back.
But I
to
mean,
what you
I
said.
think, and don't get me wrong, just think at some point, you have to take credit for you as a person, and I mean, don't get me wrong, the military does what they do, but you as a person are making those decisions, to further what it is that you've done.
100%.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah,
Anyways.
you're saying taking logs down. Like we were just kind of rapping over the phone, like, oh, well, I'm doing things this way for this reason. And same thing. Hey, I had a question on X, Y, and Z. So, well, try it this way. All right, yeah, let me go ahead and go from there.
Right.
And it's the scientific method. Set a control, do an observation.
Yeah.
Did it or did it not work? And if you really want to get down into the weeds, take a leaf tissue, culture sample, tissue sample, and send it in and actually know an analysis of what your plant's uptaking and what it's not. You can't get that from soil samples sometimes, and especially if you're doing hydro stuff, where's soil you going to get it
We
from?
used to just take a leaf and we hold it up next to a chart. We go,
That's
colors like this, colors like that. Oh yeah, it needs more of this, and we just pour it directly on the plant.
The Ed
Put
Rosenthal.
more CalMag. Put more CalMag.
The Ed Rosenthal
don't worry,
books,
it'll
the
get
George
better.
Cervantes books. I mean, those were staples. I mean, the Oaksterdam book from Ed Rosenthal. That was my. This doesn't look like that
Teaming
picture,
with
man.
microbes.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I
You
mean,
got-
that is Bibles to certain guys.
Lowenfels, Tim Wilson, you
Yeah.
got Tad Hussey with Kiss Organics doing great things. There's great guys up in the industry that are really putting the science
Pioneers.
Yep, the
Yeah.
science
in that
behind
phase of it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, trailblazers for sure.
Yep.
It's amazing to watch. Even all the guys in California and all the struggle and all the ones that were put in jail, out of jail, and made this their life. You have our respect. You don't even understand as a cultivator in California. If you're a pioneer in this game, you have our respect because what you did was the same struggles that we did. It's just a different battlefield.
Right.
And we understand it. I think that's why military guys and old, experienced growers can really blend well and work with each other and help each other. That military guy may be broken, or that grower may have gone through something hard in life and is broken. And that military goes, hey, bro, I've been there. I've been rock bottom. I'm here
Right.
for you. And we can get in that field and work together, or get in that grow room and work together, and we heal each other.
Right.
Oh,
We're not even
Just the
consuming
process
cannabis.
of cultivating in
Yeah.
itself.
100%.
You hear it from, I was just visiting a grow in Desert Hot Springs last week, and pretty large scale grow. And I was talking with people, and the guy, he just kind of made a comment, and he didn't come from cannabis, but he's like, we're walking through one of the flower rooms, which was a big flower room. And he's like, it's really crazy because when you open this door, the first smell, he's like, it's like therapeutic, and he doesn't come from cannabis at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at all. But he's like it's therapeutic. And then walking down the lanes when they slide the tables out and they walk between them, he was just like, this is like, I enjoy this, and it's therapeutic. And just and I think that's like an aromatherapy and just a
terpenes.
lot of things
It is.
just in one. And so I think, once again, I mean, the studies with terpenes and what's going on there, and just the fact of like when you're doing, large scale grows and being a part of that every day, the different strains that you're smelling. I'd love to see the studies that, like, just some crazy ass brain studies of a person when they're walking through, like a sour diesel patch, you know what I mean? Yep. And just like what happens to the brain, versus other ones, you know what I mean? And then getting in more depth with, the sativa and indicas and how that affects the brain just on the smell from the terpenes. You know what I mean?
That would be because they do that for us with traumatic brain injury. Alex
do,
has
yeah.
it too. So they hook our heads up and they look at how our brain fires. I would love to do that. Give me a jar, put it under my nose, and watch how the chemical.
I'd rather see it done in an actual in-house study where they just take a normal Joe that, or whatever, it doesn't matter, but that's working in a facility like that, and just have them hooked up and go, okay, just do your normal walkthrough. You know what I mean? And just see what I'd be curious to see what that does, because I think you're gonna find that just the aroma side of terpenes, as we do know in a lot of ways, it has a big effect on your emotions and how you are as a person while you're dealing with that stuff, and that's why I think it's so important on the terpene side of it to understand what those effects are, because then we can get more involved in what we're going to grow for a specific need.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
let's just say let's say Afganimal is the big one that's selling right now for HVGC.
Yeah.
But let's say that, there's a huge amount of depression in the vet side.
100%.
So let's say we find a terpene that really combats the depression side, or it takes the psycho side of that out, where you could then infuse that into something. It was cartridge or tincture or whatever it is, and really understand that, like, you have data that shows that that's what that does, and be able to naturally have those aromas around a person that is potentially suicide.
No, yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many things that are coming from this that we just don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Andy and I were talking a couple weeks ago. Remember, we were talking about essential oils, and you have certain terpene profiles in, like, say, peppermint or lavender.
Lavender, yeah.
Lavender is the one we were talking
Bathroom
about.
don't stink anymore.
Yeah. Potpourri.
Yep.
There you go. But no, with that, having the different terpene profiles in that, you're finding similarities between terpenes in essential oils and cannabis as well for same uplifting, relaxation,
Absolutely.
anti-anxiety.
And
you're seeing the different levels actually, like in
there's
cannabis.
properties to the plant that aren't getting high, not getting psychoactive effect, that you're still getting medical benefits from, and that's the full spectrum of the plant. That's what makes it so amazing. There are right now we have what we know is what we know, but right now it's unlimited uses for it because we don't know yet.
Well, the thing is what we do know right now has been on the backs of people that are doing this on their own. The studies that we do have, there are people that are doing studies. They're not clinical. They're not anything that we can 100% put out. Same thing of what this is doing for people with cancer and all the different things that are going on. But as soon as we get this fucking thing legal, wait and see how much, what we know now comes from this plant, not just the THC side of it, not just the getting high. No. Imagine what's going to come out when we can really pound studies and you're talking about the hundreds of millions of dollars in these studies that they're going to find, and having access to those type of laboratories to understand just the plant. And as soon as this happens, there's so much money that's going to get funneled into that. And the breakdown, like you're talking about there, I mean, you're talking about things that you could go on to chapstick and aromatherapy stuff. I mean, it'll go on how this is going to benefit in all these different little categories of the plant. Yep. So, I mean,
it's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and so think about it, man. I mean, people say, oh man, you got into this game early. You got it. No, it's still early. This is like still way early.
We're barely scratching the surface.
It's a lot more money to get into this game. There's no doubt. But you're in any way, even in being on the ancillary side of this, it's early. I mean, our Mother's Day podcast that we did, with Leslie's mom that works for us in the gummies and chocolates, I mean, her story is amazing. With her husband passing and her having to create the business that they've been in their whole life. And, he's the backbone. And now she's like, fuck, I got I don't have anything, Yeah. So she turns to cannabis with her daughter and now has a packaging company that there's just so much, amazing shit that's going on. And it's cannabis. And and I'm happy to be one to talk about it and bring this out. But I'm also humbled by the fact of the people that come and tell the stories, because we're all just one small part of what's coming out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The culture in the community is everything. That's something I noticed when I came in and was introduced to all this, was the culture means everything. It really does. And that's the backbone that drives us, is the culture that was here prior to all this, back when the Reefer Madness days.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about, you go on, you're talking about, you don't have to be a hippie to be in cannabis.
Hell no.
But you've got to understand that that's how we got here. Those the people up in the hills, that created their communes in the late 60s, early 70s, and decided, fuck this, I'm gonna go do this, and I'm gonna live my life free, and I'm gonna grow weed, I'm gonna run around my crops naked, and my kids and families, and live in a school bus. I mean, it's the fucking truth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's what we have to do. But you have to give thanks to that, because there's so many people that have gone through so much, and death and jail and all this stuff to get us to where we're sitting at a podcast with those two fine pictures on the end over there. I fucking love those. to doing what we're doing today. We're so early in this game, and now you guys coming from the military, or these guys, I mean, it's. I would have never guessed that we'd be sitting here, talk on the verge of this being so big on that, but then also the military side of this. So yeah, dude, we're all involved in something that's just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And can't wait to see what happens in these next 10 years. So do you have something?
Oh no.
Oh.
I was agreeing.
So I mean, I think unless anybody else has anything, I mean, I think the big question now is where are we going with HVGC? Not to take it away from Brian, I'm talking about on the cultivating side, because I know that's if I understood it correctly in our podcast with HVGC, cultivating is going to be a big forefront for you guys.
We would hope to be. You're looking at the HVGC GC cultivation team right here.
Right.
So it's assembled. We're working within the legal limits of what we're allowed to by San Diego County, following the plant counts and doing everything we're allowed to do. And we're just doing our R&D, and we're making sure that when it's time, when the helicopter hits the ground and it's time to go out, we're ready. And we got our shit wired.
Well, we're not talking. Well, the helicopter.
It's an analogy.
Different helicopter.
Yeah.
So when someone says, "Hey, here's an opportunity for a facility," we're not
you down there.
We're not going to be like, I can tell you that that's
Right.
1,000 square foot, and we can probably get 797 square foot of canopy with rolling beds.
So
out of that.
as
You know what I mean?
usual,
Like, yeah.
very detailed into what's happening.
Like
and
shooting
once
the
we
wings
get
off
to
a
that,
fly, making sure we have everything done prior to getting to that facility. Like Andy was saying, when we're on the X, that's not.
Did you say shooting the wings off a fly?
Yeah.
They don't do that in the Marines. That's Navy shit there.
Shooting wings off a fly.
Yeah.
When do y'all do that on the boat deck?
Huh?
Y'all do that on the boat deck?
No, they shoot from the boat deck.
Yeah.
And they're so accurate that
Here we go.
yeah.
Here we go.
I love
We
it.
knew we
I
were
love
going
the
there.
Navy. I love it.
It's all good.
I'm ready when you are.
I'm gonna.
What's up?
I'm ready when you
Oh,
are.
let's go. I need Doc.
They got size over there, man.
So
32 belly.
Jeez.
So that's the future. I mean, we know that, and I think as we go along, stay tuned, because there's going to be some plans there, and we want to be involved as much as we possibly can.
We would love it. But for what
So there's some big changes coming up on our part. Moving our facility could incorporate into some new facilities being opened.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff that will be entertaining, that solidifies our partnership and friendship, within what we're doing. And, once again, I mean, being multi-state as we are, we did launch in Oklahoma, and it's fucking going nuts.
There it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so stoked to be in Oklahoma. Michigan as well. I mean, can't say enough about Michigan. And, maybe some new ones coming up. We'll keep on board there. But unless anybody has anything else, I once again, thank you. This is definitely not the last. I mean, I said that in Brian's first podcast, and somehow he's always
itching
here.
to talk. Look at him. He
always
just wants a
here.
mic.
Hey,
And-
we're looking forward to an HVGC PV cultivation collab. That would be a powerhouse right there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
yeah, and that, once again, I mean, there's a lot of shit coming up for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But so listen, from PV Unfiltered, super honored to have Alex, Mr. Bumpin' My Ass, Roz.
Yeah, Rose.
And Annie Myers. And then in the background, don't worry, Cody is here. And as usual, being watched by the eye in the sky with the tight green shorts, we have Brian Buckley back here.
Puts them on a high heat in the dryer.
Yeah.
Just to make sure they're extra fitted.
Exactly. And he finds out that they were his wives. He still wears them.
Lululemon?
Yeah.
Don't lie. I knew it.
Hey, those are comfortable. I don't
I
care
know.
what the hell.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Doing that
let's
TikTok
not-
videos again.
He's over there doing TikTok videos.
Hey, easy. Now you're getting into my fucking world. Yeah. Anyways, thanks, guys. It's an honor. But once again, thank you. And thank you for listening, watching the #1 cannabis podcast in the nation, PV Unfiltered. Peace.